The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of the staff and management of Salem Media of Hawaii.
Welcome to Generations Radio, where the focus is on our seniors and their families. We are here each Saturday afternoon from 5 until 6 p.m., bringing you resourceful information with our radio team of professionals in the field of aging. Stay with us for the next 1 hour as we explore different ways to make life more exciting and meaningful for our extraordinary seniors. Right here on AM 690 The Answer. And now, here is our host and the publisher of Generations Magazine, Percy Ihara.
Good afternoon and welcome to Generations Radio. I am Percy Ihara with Generations Magazine, and as you guys know, we wanted to pass on this information to more of you, so we started our radio show in late 2014, and we're going to make a year pretty soon, so thank you very much for tuning in every Saturday from 5 to 6 and Sunday from 3 to 4. And I really appreciate those that go to our website that are listening to our show online. As we know, we archive all these shows, so take a look. In about 2 or 3 weeks, this show will actually be on our website as well. So if you missed it or if you want to hear more about it, please go to our website, generations808.com. So anyway, as you know, every week we try to find a good resource, a good expert in the field of aging. And I ran across one recently. Actually, I've known about the facility for many years, but we have a new gentleman here at the Pohai Nani there in the windward side of Oahu. And John, welcome to the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me out, Percy. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we just had the senior fair.
Yes.
And thank you for donating your time to our Generations Magazine booth. And thanks to all of you who helped out at the senior fair this past weekend. I appreciate Mike Roselle and Barbara Garfano, who puts on the senior fair every year. Next year will be their 32nd year. But every year we try to support them as much as we can and provide all the issues online. Our past issues and the new current issues. So thank you very much to all of us that were attending the senior fair. So John, your last name again was?
My last name is Gruhler.
Gruhler.
Gruhler,
right,
yeah, German.
Right. And you're now at the Pohai Nani.
Yes, I'm the sales manager over at Pohai Nani. I've been there for about a year now. A great team over there. I have worked in the industry for about 8 years. I started out
that long?
Yeah, started at 15 Craigside, actually. Fantastic. Actually, it was blue sky sales at that point because the building wasn't quite up. So.
Oh, really? You were there before?
Yeah.
From ground one?
Yeah. Well, not ground one. I got in probably middle of the building phase. And Susie Schulberg over there was doing a great job. She's COO or CEO, I guess, and brought a whole bunch of folks on. And I got to tour people. I mean, it was like the hard hat tour, getting up on that
really?
Kind of stuff. Yeah. So, and it was very exciting to be a part of something that just began, showing people another option, in senior living. So,
well, you're a young guy. Can I ask what got you involved in this industry?
Good question. I look probably younger than I actually am. But I guess for me, as a child, I was always very interested in seniors. I was always wandering off talking to the seniors. I felt like they had something of value to tell me.
They do.
Exactly. I always figure, why walk the path? Why blaze the trail when you can walk the path? Certainly about information. So that sort of started it off. I always kind of gravitated towards that. And then as I started aging, I realized, hey, I'm looking at my future. It's a lot better to be empowered with the choices that you have way before. And that's why I have to say thank you, Generations Magazine, because you guys are fantastic. You give the resources to people. Even if you're not in the age group, you can pick it up at one of the local supermarkets, and you start reading through it. And then maybe all of a sudden you're at a point where you're like, hey, I need this. And then you realize you have a great resource in front of you. So thank you.
Yeah, actually, interesting. We're getting a lot more baby boomers that have to take care of their parents. So they're reading the magazine. They're going online. Yep. They give us a call. They email us. I'm about town quite a bit, and they all say thank you, the same thing, because where can you go for information like this? And that's really important.
Absolutely. And you guys do a great job. I mean, at Senior Fair, you just mentioned that. And I mean, you see all the people walking around, and every one of them has questions in their head about what's the next step? What can I do?
What's the plan?
Exactly. What's the plan? And you guys give them at least sort of a skeleton of what the options are and the resources available. So,
yeah. Well, I appreciate Pohai Nani. So, John, what we wanted to do today, and for those of you listening out there, we wanted to give people kind of like how to navigate senior living options. We've done this before, but we want to take a little bit more in-depth, take a look at all the different options. And like I said, we've done this before, but John, because you're very experienced, and I love the property out on the windward side of Pohai Nani, but So when people come to you, they're looking at whether this is a good option, but a lot of times they don't know what there are out there. So can we go over some of the basic ones?
Absolutely. I always tell people I really don't sell. I'm more of an educator. I
Right.
just sort of present what the options can be. I guess let's start with the simple one. You're living somewhere at home. And I always sort of play the devil's advocate. And I say, well, why aren't you going to be staying at home, or why would you stay at home? Most of the time for me, if they tell me things like I have to climb a set of stairs to go to the bathroom at night, my house is filled with a bunch of stuff, and I know you've got the declutter side of things. But if there isn't a safe passage in their own home, I start telling them, well, hey, it's time to start thinking about possibly
Right.
a change. A lot of times it's the family members that bring it to mom, dad, auntie, uncle, whomever that is, and saying, hey, it's time for you to start thinking about this. And they're already thinking about it. But as you can imagine, I mean, living in a home for 40 or 50 years, it's hard to wrap your head around even
It is.
leaving that.
It really
you
is.
know?
A lot of questions is, how do you get your parents to say, yeah, John, you're probably right. They don't want to move out.
Exactly. Well, what you need to do is sort of talk to them about their day to day, because most of the senior living options in terms of communities themselves are pretty equal in terms of the level of service.
Yeah.
I think Honolulu is very fortunate in that we have such great professionals that really care about the seniors. But when I'm talking to them, it's sort of like, tell me a little bit more about your day to day. Has your house become too big for you? Do you still do your yard work? So you start seeing the signs of, hey, it's time to make a change. How many rooms in that five room house do you really spend time in? And it's usually a triangle: bathroom, kitchen, bedroom.
Yeah. When there's a lot of clutter, you know what they call those? Trail houses. Trail to the bathroom, trail to the kitchen, and that's it. And I don't want to say it in a negative way, but that's the reality in life. That's one of the things we try to get people. The reality of life is, do you need those 4 or the 5 extra bedrooms?
Exactly.
You know?
So it always helps, because certainly some people, at least on our property, the smallest size accommodation is 305 square feet. Well, if you're coming from a 3,000 square foot home, it's really hard for you to say, I'm only going to be living in 10% of what I'm used to living in. And of course, in our situation, we have 16 acres, and there's a lot more other than just your personal space in terms of living. But again, we were talking about the steps in terms of getting yourself and how you sort of talk to seniors.
You have to be kind of like a psychologist, don't you?
You do. And what I'm finding here too is that there's been sort of a slight change culturally. I find that in Asian culture, and certainly the local Hawaiian culture, they malama their elders. They take care of them. And what I'm starting to see now is most of those folks are seeing that putting mom and dad in front of the television all day long, where they're out at work, isn't really taking care of them the best way they can.
No.
So when they finally get to a point where they're like, maybe the best choice is, and it's not a nursing home. That's what I hear. That's probably to dispel the myth. I mean, certainly there's some fine nursing homes out there, but a senior living community is not that.
Yeah, so let's talk about the senior living community, because that's a good point, John. Because a lot of people think, we're going to put dad in a nursing facility. Well, that's more for skilled care, right? But
Exactly.
retirement, or what would you call it? Just community living?
Absolutely. Well, so the continuum of care, certainly we have, our campus does, independent, assisted, and then we do have the skilled nursing piece. So we have all of that. But in terms of what a senior living community is, exactly that, community. We've got very vibrant people. I always say it's not age, it's function. Yeah. I've got centenarians who remember my name and remember what they ate yesterday. And I've got 63-year-olds who have challenges even, moving forward.
So true, yeah.
Yeah, so it's about that. But essentially, I always tell folks when I'm talking to them about my community, you are getting into a peer group just like when you were in high school, where you now have resources. You get to talk to people about what's going on with them. Maybe you learn something, a little piece of what could help you because you have a similar circumstance.
Exactly true.
Yeah. And I always tell them it's like going back to college, but there's no tests. It's like living in a dorm. There's no tests and there's no school, but you have fun. And that's really what it is.
Yeah, you know what? When you mentioned a lot of the facilities or a lot of the retirement communities have like a studio, and I've had so many times, because I can't move from my 4-bedroom, 2,000 square foot house to a small studio.
Yeah.
In fact, my auntie moved into a property It's about, I guess, about 4 years ago now, and she had a nice big home in Kailua, and she went into a studio, and I walked in and I go, wow, I mean, she really made this place look really comfortable. But how do people downsize that such? I mean, this studio is about a little bit bigger than this studio, but they move into it. How do you do that?
Well, jokingly for me, when I'm talking to people, I said, how long have you lived in your place? If they say longer than a year, I go, I bet you there's a box or so that you probably could get rid of. So I'm always pushing them to the declutter side of things, because it isn't until you physically start getting rid of all the stuff and you realize that maybe now you have an empty room, because guess what? You didn't use that for the last 20 years anyways.
I got one of those. I got a room like that.
And I think personally, most people do. So jokingly, to desensitize it too, because it is an emotional thing. I'm very sensitive and compassionate about what somebody's facing when they're even considering this option. They're somewhere at the golden years of their life. They're having to really rethink how they want to finish out their life, let's put it that way. But anyways, the declutter side, I think, is really an important piece to start with. That sort of kind of gives you, and I know Declutter Hawaii does a great job, so hey, I have no shame about pointing direction in
there's
business.
Very few people that do it anyway, but they do a great job. But so declutter, do you have to, when you walk your parent through that process, do you tell them they have to clean up the house first?
No, what I say is it's a process, and I think there's simultaneous things that happen at the same time. First off, I ask them, what brought you to me today? Because I can't assume at all, because it could be a trigger event. For some, it's like, I often hear, and it sort of saddens me, honestly, when I hear, well, it's not until I can't feed myself that I want to join a community. Because I tell people, what you're missing out on is all the vibrancy of a community before you need. So I always say, think and make sure that you're planning so that when you feel that it's time, you're ready. You've got everything set up.
Yeah, it's really important, and that's part of Generations Magazine's work ethic. We try to bring all these informational tools and resources and programs and services to the public so they can start planning ahead to be proactive versus reactive. Because I get calls in my mortgage business, something happened to my mom, we need money right away. And it's so reactive, and we need to plan ahead of time. And I tell people, take a look at all these properties. We're here at John Gruhler from Pohai Nani, but really, we need to let people know, and you guys probably allow people to come and tour your property.
Oh, always.
I'm sure all of them do.
Yeah, I guess I would say in the last 9 months, I've done 350 tours.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I don't want to put you on the spot. Does that include lunch or some kind of a...
Well, it depends. I mean, I always enjoy, because one thing that you do get in our community is 3 meals a day, and the food is fantastic. So I tell people, kick the tire before you buy the car, because meal is an important part of it. You get it, it's an amenity.
Absolutely.
So I always try and include that. Certainly along the process, I'm going to bring you up and make sure you have a meal before you join our community. Sometimes it's the first meeting, but I do enjoy that. But there's only one lunch a day, so I can only have one tour a day for that side of thing.
But food is so important, though.
Absolutely.
So you guys have a nutrition. Most people have a nutrition on staff.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. I mean, Neil Hendrickson has been with us for 30 years.
Really?
Yeah, in various iterations.
You were one of the first, weren't you?
Yeah, well, first off, we were. So the way Pohai Nani developed it was initially started in the mid-50s. There was a hui of Methodists who got together and decided that the senior community was underserved. And they got together, they got the financing, they broke ground, and in 1964, they opened it up. Wow. So 51 years. So yes, we're the oldest senior living community here on the island. Wow. Arcadia came shortly thereafter.
Right.
And then there was a host of others that sort of opened through the years. But yeah, we were the first ones there. Yeah.
So the big term when they talk about is CCRC. Mm-hmm. So I know we talked about it before, but refresh my memory.
Sure.
What is that exactly?
Yeah, so there's a lot of acronyms in the senior living for sure.
EAD, EOA, ALS, ALZ, all this kind of stuff. So.
Exactly. So CCRC is called a Continued Care Retirement Community. That model is essentially, and that would be 15 Craigside, that would be Arcadia, that would be Kahalanui.
So not the Plaza, not the Hawaii Kai.
No. So Hawaii Kai is, well,
Why is that different?
Well, the difference, okay, so what a CCRC essentially is that people, I guess, to minimize the amount of vocabulary you need to learn, it's a buy-in, if you will. So there's an upfront cost that you have to pay. It can range anywhere from $170,000 up to close to $1 million, depending on the accommodation and the property. Essentially, what you're doing at that point is you're guaranteeing a place in their skilled nursing facility because the CCRCs have that skilled nursing piece.
That's why it's continuum care.
Continuum of care. So what you're doing is you're guaranteeing a spot in their skilled nursing at the end of your life if you need it. And so that's essentially what you're doing. You're paying it up front. And so when you need it, it's there. You continue to pay. I mean, and there's a little bit more complexity in terms of how a CCRC works because you still, even though there's an upfront cost, you still have monthly maintenance fees that you have to pay. And they do a lot of financial review to determine, your funding and how long you can actually be there.
Monthly,
Right, that monthly. And then the good news for the CCRCs is once you have, and it can't be willfully dispersed, but once you are at zero, if you spend down and you have no assets, they will continue to take care of you.
Kind of like for the rest of your life.
Exactly. So that is a good model. And I always tell people if you don't have long-term healthcare insurance, that might be a good option for you because you didn't already plan for that piece. But if you have the assets to qualify and you see the value in that investment, then that might be the right type of community for you to join.
That's a good point. Nobody's ever actually explained it to me that way, John. So that was good. So the Plaza Hawaii Kai, that's not a buy-in in Pohai Nani, too, right?
So they're a month-to-month rental communities.
And what do you call those communities?
Well, I guess in terms of that, the Plaza does assisted living, essentially. I mean, they do have independent, too, but they've kind of branded themselves on that level. Hawaii Kai has independent and assisted living as well. And we have the continuum because we have the skilled nursing piece.
Right. That's the key.
Yeah.
Isn't that important? So is that really when people decide on a place because they know they can stay at Pohai Nani as well?
Right. Because we bring up to the end of life, we bring hospice in. So there's really no reason to move. I am not a proponent of asking a senior or their family, particularly when they're ailing and not feeling well, to say, oh, sorry, you've exceeded the level of our care. We're going to have to ask you to find another community.
But because yours is not a buy-in, though, if they can't afford skilled care, what would they do then?
Well, it depends on, if they can't afford skilled nursing. Well, first off, I guess there are programs out there. We do have limited number of beds for Medicare or Medicaid. Just depends.
Oh, you do?
Yes, limited, not many, but certainly we do. We do a fair amount of actually short-term rehab. So that's a good piece of business for us too. Someone breaks a hip, they need to spend rehab 2 months. They live on the windward side. They don't want to have their family doesn't want to have to schlep back and forth.
I never thought about that actually because I know a few facilities have Medicare beds. I didn't know that many had Medicaid beds.
Yeah. Oh. So, I mean, it depends. And again, I'm not the expert there. And of course, my skilled nursing is probably going, in the moment. But certainly we do. I mean, so we want to serve the seniors in the best way that we can. And obviously, we're a nonprofit, so we have to be very careful about the bottom line. So,
yeah. So let's talk about the other growing area. And we had a couple people on before, the Adult Day Center and the Adult Day Health.
Absolutely. So, and that kind of speaks to the beginning when we said about why or when you're thinking about this thing. So if mom or dad or auntie is, not being socialized throughout the day, then daycare might be a really good.
You mean homebound?
They're just there. They're watching TV 17 hours a day, and it's nothing about the family. It's just they're out there trying to pay the bills, so they have to work. So there are some daycares out there, some really good ones, and it's just like when you were taking your kids to daycare. You drop them off in the morning. They have meals, they have activities, all those really great things. You pick them up at night and you take them back home. And that's a really successful segue, actually, into terms of thinking about communities and joining a community. But certainly I feel strongly, if you stay engaged, you're going to live longer. You're going to be mentally more healthy. And when you're around your peer group, you learn a lot. So, and that's at any age, certainly. But as the seniors, it's really, they have a repository of information, 70, 80, 90 years.
Oh, yeah. They're a treasure when it comes to stories. And I love the old stories about Hawaii.
Yes.
Things that, you don't ever hear. And these stories, you can't make these stories up, some of these, But it's really important to understand. I think there's over 20 or 25 adult day centers on Oahu alone.
Yeah.
But what I love about these adult day centers, there's a lot of activities all day long too.
Absolutely. They have activities coordinators. I mean, they're very serious about keeping their seniors engaged. I mean, it really depends, I guess, on the size of it too,
Right.
because some are very large, and then they have several people doing different things at the same time. But yeah, I mean, crafts, puzzling, anything to keep your mind agile and your fingers moving are really important things. And like I said, the folks that do that, thank you for all that you work. The ones that do daycare, because you really help the seniors, extend the time at home, and also show them that there's still a value in their lives, because it's not over till it's over. I always tell people, you still have a breath inside of your lungs. You got something to say.
Yeah. Really, and like you said, the social contact. They all have nutritious meals there.
Absolutely.
I know Holly Howley. They open up at the Mary Saville building in Waimalu.
Yeah.
I just opened up in July, I believe. Kahalunui's opening up a place called Live Well in Ivalai.
Yeah.
Salvation Army's downtown. Just naming a few of those off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But it's really important because you can spend $65 to $70 a day versus spending $22 to $25 an hour for somebody to watch you.
Exactly. Exactly. And then again, you're getting that social piece. And I think you can't underestimate how valuable that is for folks. It's difficult to sort of quantify it. You can see it in their face. You can hear it in their spirit. You can see that they're still engaged because, again, watching television, not that that's a bad thing, but 17 hours a day, I don't think that's a good thing.
I think that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
No, really. I mean, it's a great babysitter, but because you're not moving. So a number of adult day centers I've been to, they do exercise programs.
Absolutely.
Some of them go out once a week to
excursions, things like that. Yep.
But what I like about it is that a lot of them are expanding their hours where they're open up a little earlier than 8 o'clock because you have to go to work. So you drop them off, then go to work.
Right.
And some of them are slowly, I've noticed, are opening up on a weekend. So if you're looking at an adult day center, there's an association, you can Google them. But I think you're going to find more and more on the neighbor islands, let alone on Oahu. So it's a great thing. So you think, is that a good transition to get? Because I know a lot of them don't want to go out of home, don't want to leave the home. You think that's a good transition then to eventually?
Because I mean, once you remove the individual, not remove, you invite them outside of their home environment, then they're stimulated in the newness of it all. And when they have a positive experience with a daycare situation, then they realize, hey, being around all these people, because most of the time I spend my day alone if I'm not with all these people, and how pleasurable that was, and the conversations they start having and the relationships they start building, because you can never have enough friends, and certainly you continue to build friends in that environment. So it's a really good thing. So I think it's, senior living, the daycare is a really important piece to the senior living communities. I really feel strongly.
But just like Pohai Nani, other properties out there, they tend to go to a facility or adult day center in where they live or the area that they grew up in, right?
Absolutely. I always tell people it's two things. I mean, certainly the financial aspect is always an important thing and a huge factor that most people consider. But I would say just as equal is the geographical location. If you were brought up in town and you're used to town and your neighborhood, and right down the street, Makiki is this. You are very interested in staying in that area. For me, I'm on the windward side in Kaneohe. I would say at least 75% of my business and residents have either lived in Kaneohe, Kailua, Waimanalo, even up North Shore side, but on the windward side. Their families live there. I think that's an important piece too, because no one's parking their kupuna. They're staying engaged, and so the closer they are to their homes and their lives, the easier it is for them to maintain a semblance of normalcy, in life for them. So
I know there's an adult day center in Wahiawa that I helped out with, Age to Perfection. So I know a lot of the people that live in Mililani or Wahiawa. And then there's one that's the Japanese-speaking adult day center called Sakura House, right below, about a block below Roosevelt High School. So I know those are growing communities. But anyway, we're here with John Gruhler from Pohai Nani. We're talking about the different options for senior living, whether it's an adult day center or CCRC or just an assisted living place. It's really, really important to do your plan, do your work, your study, go visit some of the properties. And John, Pohai Nani, how can they reach you if they want to get a hold of you at Pohai Nani?
You could reach me directly at 236-7835, 236-7835. And you can call our general line at 247-6211.
And you guys do have a website, right?
Absolutely. We're part of the Good Samaritan Society. And so we operate in 24 different states. We have 240 properties, 24,000 employees, serve 27,000 residents on a daily business. Been in business for 80 some odd years. So
51 in Hawaii.
51 in Hawaii, yeah.
And your website is Pohai Nani?
Yeah, yeah.
PohaiNani.org, probably. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're going to take a short break. We're here talking about senior living options. And for those of you that have parents or even for yourself, you might want to stay tuned for the next half hour. As well as you guys know, we do archive all these shows. So if you miss a portion of it or some of it or all of it, you can go to our website, generations808.com, to listen to these again. We're going to take a short break. Miss Leah, thank you very much. We'll be right back in a little bit.
Generations Radio. If you have any questions or want to be part of our discussion, give us a call at 296-5467. That's 296-5467. This is Generations Radio on AM 690 The Answer.
Moon Physical Therapy is here to help you back to recovery. Moon Physical Therapy is located on Ward Avenue across from Sports Authority. Physician prescribed for motor vehicle accidents, workman's comp, or that body pain that comes from rushing to play without warming up. Also event cardiopulmonary rehabilitation with our one-on-one patient care. Moon's Aquatherapy heated endless pool allows for low-impact exercise with less pain on land. We will give you the right exercises to get you back to health. Ask your doctor to prescribe Moon Physical Therapy. Moon Physical Therapy. We achieve results.
Aloha, this is Martha Clopin.
And Al Harrington. Choosing the right Medicare plan not only saves you money, it also helps you avoid headaches and heartaches down the road.
We want to remind everyone
to listen to a Medicare Moment with Martha, Sundays from 9:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. as we help answer important questions on Medicare so you can stay healthy, wealthy, and wise all year long.
Call me at 543-2073, 543-2073.
I was an addict from the age of 13. I finally decided it was time for a change. I walked into the Salvation Army Adult Rehabilitation Center, and that got me ready for the real world. Now, I choose to be guided by Jesus Christ, and today, I'm building a powerful and promising future, free from drugs and alcohol.
Please shop at the Salvation Army family stores. With our discounted sales, your support through your purchase helps men live a clean, sober, and productive life.
Got Vegas on your mind? Get Vacations Hawaii on the line. Vacations Hawaii offers weekly 4- and 5-night Honolulu to Vegas packages, which include 3 meals daily from $6.99. Stay at Hawaii's favorite casinos: California, Fremont, Main Street Station, and Orleans Hotel. Vacations Hawaii will get you there in comfort on deluxe wide-body 767 planes with complimentary in-flight hot meal service. Vacations Hawaii's frequent flyer program gives you future travel discounts and credits. So if you're ready to win big, call Vacations Hawaii at 591-4777 or visit PointVacationsHawaii.com.
Today, more than ever, we local people are living longer than any other state in the Union, with more seniors, baby boomers, and caregivers. Generations Radio promotes the importance to be proactive as we all age. The radio team will focus on issues facing our seniors and their families, finding resources to navigate healthy aging along with financial, legal, and caregiving information. So join Percy Ihara from 5 until 6 each Saturday, right here on AM 690 The Answer. Focusing on the issues facing our seniors and their families today. Here's our Generations Radio host, Percy Ihara.
Welcome back to Generations Radio. I'm Percy Ihara, here with Generations Radio here every Saturday from 5 to 6. And don't forget, Sunday from 3 to 4, we repeat it. And so thanks to Salem Media, Mike Buck, and Leilani Williams for helping us out. And our new engineer here, Miss Leah, how are you? You're young. You must be taking all this stuff in, right? You must be learning about for your parents and your grandparents, right? She's like in her 20s, but anyway. We're here with John Gruhler from Pohai Nani. And John, I appreciate you coming here and, on the spur of the moment. But because I'm leaving for Vegas tomorrow, and I needed somebody. I forgot I need to tape a show for this weekend. But anyway, we're talking about skilled living, assisted living, all of the above, just senior living options. And one of the things we didn't talk about was memory care and all these facilities. And I think that's a big part of planning long term. Isn't that true?
Yeah, no, absolutely. As we progress and people age and live longer, we're starting to see a lot more of the onset of Alzheimer's and dementia. And so there are a few campuses. Halikuike is one of them, right down the street on the Windward side. And actually, I think they have a location in Manoa as well. They specialize in memory care. And that's a tricky piece. I mean, I'm not a clinician. I'm certainly not qualified to speak about what that is. I can only tell you my personal experience in walking the halls and seeing those who are expressing the trappings of Alzheimer's. And it's a fearful thing for everybody involved, from the caregiver
to family affair.
Exactly. It really, really is. And so what I would say to your listeners is it's really important as your parents or the folks your kupuna age that you start sort of looking at them from that level. And
so
if
true.
They're having senior moments on a consistent basis, if they can't remember that they haven't eaten, if they're not taking their medications, they're putting themselves into a compromised situation physically, which, we all know if you're not eating, you're not sleeping, all those things.
Not drinking water.
Age, exactly. Drinking water. I mean, I can't tell you how many folks, they're dehydrated. They don't realize it. And they start, they're almost in cardiac arrest before they're, drinking water. It's a terrible thing.
Water is the third leg of staying healthy besides eating right and exercising. In fact, last week we were talking about the importance of water, and we talked about Kangen water.
Yeah.
And I was surprised how many people called us saying we want more information on this. Because bottled water is good to drink water, but it's not always the best water to drink.
Yeah.
But since we brought up the idea of memory care, when you're at home, we need to first of all start thinking about all these issues as we live.
Yep.
So let's just cover some of the basics.
Well, some of the basics would be if you have a stove in your home. And
everybody does.
Well, everybody does. Well, I don't know. Some people. Well, let's say if you use a stove, because there are people that never use a stove, but they have it still. But that could be a very dangerous thing if left on, and then the memory is not there that it's on. They could burn themselves. They could burn their homes
a year,
down.
Unfortunately, it does happen.
Right. So that's something to really think about in terms of not remembering where you're at, the wandering side of things. Huge. I can't tell you how many times I've had calls from folks saying they found my dad down the street. I was totally, I was at work. I didn't know what was going on. And that was maybe the first point of them showing that they really do have dementia. And it's really important for a family member to know there's a lot of resources out there, and people can live with that condition. They just have to live in the right environment.
Right, to be a safe environment. So I know a number of nonprofits do a safety assessment. Project Donna is one of the bigger ones, but they also have to look at decluttering the home.
Absolutely.
I got several requests just recently about security and the emergency response little gadgets, whether it's a watch or a pendant.
Absolutely.
We're looking at buying that for our relatives in our family.
Yeah.
We have a special deal with ADT, by the way, where we have a special. It's pretty cool. Most of the companies, by the way, will give you free little, what do you call those gadgets? The emergency response buttons or necklaces or watches for free. You just pay them monthly. But another big one here is ramps. I found a company from a client of mine that can make portable ramps out of aluminum, like the ladder aluminum metal, and they can actually do it to spec, and they'll actually ship it to you.
Wow.
In pieces via FedEx. So that was kind of cool. And the reason why it's good because you don't need permits for that. It's not permanent. So you don't need a building permit because most all ramps above a certain height need permits. So it's really important. But anyway, memory care is huge because, now luckily they have these security devices that has GPS.
Yes. Yeah.
If you're wearing one.
That's the thing.
That's the thing. It's hard to get a parent to use one of these necklaces or a watch.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. In our community, actually, that's part of the month-to-month, so everybody gets that as part of the amenities. Yeah, and it's the Lifeline. Philips is what we use, but there are many of them out there. The ones who live on our campus, actually, when they push the button, it is actually hooked to our health services on the 4th floor. But we're talking about memory care. But that is something that we actually do have as part of our
And they can walk
amenities.
anywhere on the campus.
Yep, anywhere on the campus. It's got a unique signal. We have cameras on the campus. And so if they hurt, even if they just trigger it by turning the arm, they don't even have to push it. That's how sensitive it is. I've seen it played out. I mean, about 6 weeks ago, we had one of our residents walking down. She fell. She hit the ground. I ran out. I was one of the first responders. We didn't know at the time that she had a stroke. But because within 20 seconds, our healthcare folks were down there. Within 5 minutes, EMS was there. And within probably less than a half hour, she was getting TPA, which is the medication that allows them.
Right.
And she's symptom-free. She has a bump on her head, but if she wasn't in a senior living community, I don't think that would have happened.
Yeah, that is so critical, especially for women to have strokes, because it's a time thing. You got to get there within a certain time frame.
Yeah.
You know, and that TPA drug is wonders. Actually, my good friend of mine, used to sell that drug. He used to go to hospitals and train people about the need of that. But so that's really, really important. So that's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah. And, you know, and
you have
again,
a big campus over there.
We do, 16 acres. We're very fortunate. Believe it or not, back in the mid-50s, they bought 16 acres for $100,000. Can you believe that, folks?
Really?
$100,000. Yeah.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow.
I mean, then that was probably worth $10 million at that point.
Right. So most places have a memory care.
Well, they try and address it. I mean, I'm going to even say on our campus, we certainly have our care homes, which are probably the closest to what memory care that we can do. They have alarm doors, so there's no way of them getting out. There's 24/7 supervision. There's always a certified nursing assistant there. Our ratio is 5-to-1, so they're getting a lot more individual care. Because as folks progress with Alzheimer's and the various dementia, they need to be directed. You know, rather than giving them a choice of saying this or, I mean, you always give them a choice, but is it this or that? And what would you like to do?
I see.
Because then now you're challenging them. You're challenging that disease is taken a part of that brain, of their brain, to be able to sort of reason and come up with something. So you have to there is a specialized way that you need to communicate with folks who have dementia so that they don't get frustrated, because that's usually what happens. They have these trigger moments, and then all of a sudden they're frustrated and they can't function. And it's sad to watch that happen. But more importantly, I think it is important to be, for us in the care homes, because it is 24/7, because there are people that are there, because the doors are alarmed, we are set up to sort of help that. I'm not going to say we're a memory care unit. There are some people who that's what they specialize in. For example, for a person who can't take direction, that will wander, that is combative or argumentative, you need to sort of, instead of, and I say this lovingly, you can't spook the herd. I mean, when you're around a big group of people and they start seeing that, it's difficult for everybody, particularly, I mean, with compassion, the individual who's expressing that and the family members around that. But there are some campuses that are better suited for that sort of expression of Alzheimer's.
By the way, there is a place in town, actually just on the backside of Kaimuki High School, called Manoa Cottages Kaimuki. The owners have a place in Manoa, but this one specializes in just Alzheimer's dementia patients. I believe they have 22 beds. They bought a two-story apartment building, old two-story apartment building, and they renovated it. And I've been there. Calvin, who's in our magazine from Manoa Cottages Kaimuki, runs that place, and they do a great job.
Yeah.
I mean, I usually try to tour every facility like I've done at Pohai Nani, but they do a fantastic job. So if you're in town, give them a call. But that is such a difficult, and you have to have trained, specialized people.
You really do. I mean, and very sensitive people too, that in the moment, they're not getting frustrated as a caregiver because because of what they're doing is creating more work for you. So you have to really take a step back and say, okay, I need to give this person direction, because if I tell them it's time for you to use the restroom, it might prevent me from having to clean up a mess later on.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's very difficult. And for folks who have Alzheimer's, again, the spectrum is very broad, but that's what happens. They start losing the ability to sort of see where they're at, what the reality is, all those sorts of things, down to personal care. At a point, they're not even going to know.
Yeah, I've got actually a couple of family members myself in my own family that's dealing with that right now. My cousins are dealing with that, and I was at a breakfast this morning at 7:00. By the way,
you're a good man, Percy.
Well, it was all about Alzheimer's.
Yeah,
and Dr. Kamal Masaki was talking, and Pamela Ani from the Alzheimer's Association, And the average life expectancy on average is between 8 and 10 years. But they've seen cases as much as 20 years. Can you imagine having somebody with 20 years of memory loss? And unfortunately, and I tell people there's no way to stop it or slow it down. And unfortunately, it only gets worse with time.
Yeah.
And over the age of 85 is almost 50% chance you're going to get it. So unfortunately, all we can always say today is just eat healthy as much as possible, exercise, and social contact. So let me ask you, John, because you're like an expert already. You've been doing this 8-9 years now. You're almost an expert. How do people? Because when people come and visit your property or any other property, what are some of the major questions about financing come up? How do they finance it?
Well, a lot of times, I guess a combination of a couple of things. If your monthly income from either from retirement or pensions or things like that, Social Security. Some people, it's investments. They're able to fund it that way. Many times I always ask, do you need to sell a home in order to make a move? And many do. That's their asset. They've invested many, many years in that.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
That's the number one asset. I mean, so many people lost money after 9/11.
Exactly.
And the financial crisis in the late 2000s. But I was surprised that some of your units there, you can use Medicare and Medicaid. Is that right?
Well, in the skilled nursing side of it, yes. But one way actually to creatively sort of fund things, if you have long-term health care insurance out there, and anybody over 50 needs to start thinking about that.
I'm 55, John. I'm looking at it right now as we speak. Let me tell you.
Yeah. And so, because obviously the policies go up, so the younger that you get in, the better off it is for you in terms of that. But depending on the flexibility of the policies, here's a couple of things. Make sure if you have a long-term health care insurance that you have, it's okay for a family or a friend member to be a caregiver because they can be compensated rather than just being.
Yeah, it's a special type of policy. So when you're talking to your financial advisor, they need to check on that. But
Exactly.
a very good question to ask.
That. Another thing is, depending on the policy, you can start drawing from the benefits if you cover, and usually it's 2 of the 5 activities of daily living. So if you're not able to feed yourself, you're not able to shower, you're not able to toilet, yourself, then depending on the policy, you can now start drawing upon that.
Right.
And that can be for services and or even for rent, depending on, again, the policy itself, because I have some folks that have moved in and were in that kind of circumstance financially, but they were smart enough to have that long-term health care insurance, a very flexible policy. And for some, it's funding 100% of their stay.
Right. Well, it's just such a big deal that the state hopefully will be coming out with a public awareness campaign any day now. A public awareness campaign about long-term care, the high cost of long-term care in Hawaii, the risk of not planning for long-term care. Do you really want your children to take care of you? And also, maybe you better look at long-term care insurance. We highly recommend people to look at that because, if you took care of your parents, ladies and gentlemen listening, you know how difficult it is. Think about it now. Do you think the millennials, our children, is going to take care of us? Most people tell me, I hope so. And I say, hope's not a plan.
Right.
Well, I don't think they want to. Well, basically, I tell them, what is the plan? When I got into this aging field 11, 12 years ago, it was a matter of if I need it. Back then, it was about 50-50 chance. Today, women is about 80% and women is about 70%. Men are 70%, women are 80%. And that's a national statistic. I think in Hawaii, because we're healthier, we're closer to the hospital, we're going to live a lot longer. And so we got to really start thinking about this. So I'm glad you brought that up. But financing is just something that we're going to have to do unless you want to take care of your mom and dad and you can take off work to take care of mom and dad, right?
Exactly. And again, obviously you want to take care of your family and sometimes the burden is put on the children and the various family members to be able to fund something like this because mom, dad, whomever did not plan for it and now they're at a position where they really need it.
Well, you brought up a good point. When I talk to families and like people my age and they're taking care of their mom or dad, it says because your mom and dad did not have a plan. And that's what we've been trying to get people to understand. You got to have a plan. Start the conversation today because we're all going to live a lot longer than we think. And unfortunately, it is very costly in Hawaii.
Yeah, exactly. I'm seeing people moving in now. I just moved somebody in who's 96 years old. and 96, like vibrant 96, walking around talking, not somebody who's slumped over and needs a whole
That's
bunch
what
of
people
services.
think, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've got centenarians there too that are the same way. So I always say it's not age, but function. But more importantly, I think people are living a lot longer, healthier through technology. I think you're right here in Hawaii, just because of the aloha and the wonderfulness of living here, you do live longer. And so, it's very important to plan. Like you said, I like that. Hope is not a plan. I'm going to steal that from you.
No,
I think
really,
that's really important.
It is. But we had talked earlier about EAD is another acronym.
Mm-hmm.
Elderly Affairs Division is part of the city and county of Honolulu.
Yeah,
but they have a lot of resources as well.
They certainly do. I mean, they have a great website, and you can get a pamphlet. I mean, I think it's a couple of years old now, but I think most of the resources are still pretty accurate.
That's that booklet sponsored by American Savings Bank.
Exactly, and that's probably a 70-page document. Filled with anything from subsidized housing to our services like mine.
It's a senior resources booklet.
Exactly. And all you need to do is get on their website, City and County of Honolulu.
I think it's if you do EAD or Elderly Affairs, Google that. They're going to actually send you to the adrc.org website. Mm-hmm. But you can also download that booklet as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
For you baby boomers out there or even younger that are taking care of your parents. Elderly Affairs Division, and I believe it's a senior resources handbook.
Yeah.
Or American Savings should have a few left. They're going to be running out by the end of the year. Yeah. But that's a good resource. But you must have a ton of stories, John, huh?
Oh, yeah. No, it's funny. I mean, a good story that comes to mind right off the bat is it's never too late to learn a new skill or express a new skill. And that's one of the beauties of living in a senior living community, because possibly you never had the stimulus or the interest or even the exposure to it. And now a peer group of yours is doing it. I'll give you a specific example. One of the folks who was one of the heads of one of the museums here, I'm going to say one of them, but one of the museums here was always involved with, the curation and acquisition and all the various aspects of running a museum, but had never painted before. And one would think, if you're into art or you're managing art, that possibly you would express yourself in that way. Well, this person, within 6 months' time, picked up the paintbrush and then started doing expositions of their work. So it's amazing that even an unfound skill that you hadn't expressed ever can do that. So that's an interesting story. But I mean, the actual personal stories, I mean, I didn't grow up here, and I'm just amazed at the things that people will tell you about how Hawaii has changed. The ones that touch me specifically are the war days when things happened. I mean, to hear the story of, I was in Palolo Valley when the bombing was going on.
Wow.
And I remember running for the shelter or this or that. I'm getting chicken skin just talking about that because it's amazing. And they have complete recall of that particular experience. So many have shared things. I mean, some of the tragedies, I'll say too, honestly, the internment camps, the various things that you hear. I mean, the Medal of Honor, we're privileged to have a Medal of Honor winner in our community. So, part of the 442. So you hear those stories about, participating on that level. But the various wars, from the Korean War, every war, we seem to have a lot of vets. I mean, I'm a vet as well. I'm very proud to have served the United States, and I'm grateful for all the vets out there who have and continue to. But wow, what a resource in terms of pride of their country. I think that's something that we need to revisit in a way. And I think the seniors have that locked in them much more than the newer generations.
Well, they grew up with that. I mean, the depression. Can you imagine only having black and white TV or no TV? Those are the kind of stories I like to have. One of the things I've talked about this many times when I speak around town, that I have a relative and a family friend moved in on the same day. And through different conversations, they both told me exactly the same thing. I wish I moved in earlier.
Yeah.
So that happened about 3 years ago, and I've been telling my wife that's what I want to do. But I don't want to wait till I'm 90. I don't want to wait till I'm 80. I want to move in like 60 something, 70.
No, I agree. I mean, hey, why not get 3 meals a day? You don't have to cook. You don't have to clean. There's free transportation. You have activities at your beck and just call. You have a community that's going to love you and treat you with kindness and respect. They're there to serve you. I tell people, hey, come sooner than later. You're going to really enjoy it. Don't let some health crisis or some crisis drive you to think about this, because you really miss out on the opportunity of what it has to offer you.
But we were talking about, you guys have so much unique services over there that I was not aware of.
Yeah.
Give our listeners out there what's some of the stuff that Pohai Nani does.
Well, one of the things that they may not be familiar with, because it's a relatively new feature, is we have services at home. We actually have an agency that for folks, caregivers will go out and actually.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, many don't. So call Caitlin Vick. She's awesome. And you can call it at 247-6211. That's our general number. But there is a way to stay at home. I'm always an advocate of saying stay home for as long as you're comfortable and you're safe. And for many, moving away from their home is something they can't even wrap their head around. But they may need some help. So there are services. We have services at home. It's an hourly rate. You can go in. They'll do things, caregiving. They'll take you out shopping. They will do your laundry. They'll do your lawn. They'll do those sorts of things that keep you still in your house, the comfortable space that you've created for yourself. Yet you don't have the energy to do those sorts of services for yourself. So that's one thing I think that most people wouldn't know about that. Another thing is that on some campuses, at least for us, we do independent living and assisted living in the same way. They look the same. It's just the amount of services that are brought in. So we're not making people move. That's a bigger thing, too.
In your own unit, you can receive those services?
Absolutely. As long as you are safe. Certainly, there's an assessment with our Director of Health Services. There's a lot of pieces in terms of that to make sure that we can provide the level of service that you need. But yes, we bring services into a person's home. There's a dignity thing about that, but more importantly, we want people to remain as independent as they can for as long as they can. And with services, a person can even live out their whole entire life that way, because many don't go to the skilled nursing side of things. Sometimes it's an acute thing that happens. It's a heart attack, it's a stroke that takes you, and so you don't have this long protracted illness. You all of a sudden you're healthy, and then now you're not, and now you're gone. So for folks who and you can never plan that, obviously. But more importantly, if you have services that are brought into your home environment, whether it be at home, in the outside, or in our own community, I think there's a sense of independence that you can gain. Even though you need help, you realize you're still independent. I can still live on my own. I don't have to have my son or my daughter come and help me. There are folks here who can do these things for me.
Well, John, we're gonna take we're gonna have to end it pretty soon. But what would you tell somebody that comes to say, "I'm trying to get my mom and dad or my mom to move into Pohai Nani. We live on the windward side. It's close for me." But they don't want to come. What would you, in a sentence or two, how would you explain it to them?
Well, the first thing I would say is come and have the experience, because we're not a nursing home. I think that's one thing to dispel. This is an independent a community full of vibrant people, so have them come and have the experience. I often say, hey, come up and have a meal. You got to kick the tire before you buy the car. So it's one of the amenities.
And walk the campus.
And walk the campus.
I did it once, and I was kind of surprised, actually very surprised, happily surprised. Yeah, I mean, Kaneohe is nice. My parents, my sister folks live in Kaneohe, but just a great campus there.
Yeah, I mean, 14 stories. You get on the top there, you see an expansive view of the Ko'olau and all of the Kaneohe Bay. Pretty amazing. And I always tell people, even if you grew up here, if you haven't been in that building, you haven't seen this view, because it's the only place to get it.
Yeah. Great, John. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
John Gruhler from Pohai Nani. And give us your phone number again and your website.
Website, phone number is 247-6211. And I'm floundering with the website. I'm sorry, because it's a Good Samaritan website, actually.
That's right. You just Google Pohai Nani.
Yeah,
You'll
Pohai
get to
Nani.
the website.
Yeah.
But John's in charge of your...
Yep. I'm the sales manager there, so I'm in charge of all the sales function there.
And you'll give tours and just
absolutely.
Say,
come on down.
Mention Generation Magazine, you get a free lunch, right?
Hey, let's do that for the listeners out there. Yes, if you say you heard it on Generations Magazine, I will take you out to lunch.
Well, appreciate it, John. I did want to mention we're here every other, the magazine, Generations Magazine is out every other month, and the October issue is coming out in a few days. Look at it at the YMCAs, all your doctor offices, Big City Diner, Vacations Hawaii, the libraries statewide, by the way. And don't forget to like us on our Facebook page. We're also on LinkedIn. You can email me, Percy, at generations808.com. Give us a call, 234-3117. And if you have any stories or have any pictures, send them over to us. We're always looking for new stories, new services, programs, things to keep people in their home, or if they decide to go to Pohai Nani or some other facility. Really, we're trying to provide information to the public statewide. So I appreciate you visiting our website, reading our magazine. And John Gruhler from Pohai Nani, thank you very much. We'll see you again.
Thank you, Percy.
As always, we always say aloha and live well. Till next week. Aloha.